The year is 2023. I started typing this review in 2020. Fun times! It's actually been so long that I've been retyping each script because of all the crap I've learned over the years. I don't sound like a complete idiot when I talk about media anymore, and it's nice for a change of pace. With that being said, let's just get on with the review, shall we? The first title in the long-running franchise of racing games known as Need for Speed, I'll be covering the PC Special Edition for this video, although I have tried the others just for comparison. Not really a lot to say other than this version has slightly more content, the AI has been toned down, and the graphics are sharper overall, so good stuff. Starting this marathon off with a short and sweet one, which is both a blessing and a curse. A blessing because I have some things to say that Nostalgia Horse will probably hunt me down for, so the sooner we're through this the better. A curse because of all those things I have to say about this game. The year is 1994, Ridge Racer and Daytona USA are out, and Gran Turismo and Driver are just a few years away. Road and Track, a magazine company about motorcars, have made a deal with EA to collaborate, and release a racing title of their own. Cue the Need for Speed. Stiff competition on either side of this title's release date, but focusing on the game solely for a moment, expectations are set from the get-go. Road and Track helped with how the vehicles behaved and sounded. That alone should tell you that this isn't quite like the arcade races this franchise tiptoed into at some point. It's a racing sim first and foremost, and if we're going to start with something positive, it's a damn good one at that. Each vehicle feels distinct in weight and control, which is pretty impressive for its time. It's still competent today with how it feels, it's just everything else that I have an issue with.
Surviving out in the perilous wastes of the wild racetrack can be perilous. Luckily, we have our brand loyal Husky Snow to take the wheel. Whilst he may not be a professional in the field, he's still cheap labour, which is perfect for today's presentational purposes. The first thing the driver will notice whilst on these tracks is just how the speed the need requires to be in order to make it around these roads alive. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, I said alive because winning isn't the priority here, at least not in the traditional sense. Most racers will probably enter the ring with the intention of getting that shiny trophy at the end, only to be met with disappointment. This is largely because we believe that your limbs and internal organs are enough of an award. Contrary to popular belief, blood belongs in the body, folks. But tell that to our contestants. I wanna go home. Death comes to us all, friends, and here that will quite often be in the form of a drunk driver letting out the frustrations of family life on anyone who comes within a hockey stick of him, or God's sheer disdain for your ass not coming out of your head. Fortunately, all racers will receive compensation for any and all injuries, either with their lives swiftly coming to an end because of them, or by our friendly management team who encourages all to give their high-speed life another go. Oh, by Jove, what the fuck is this voice?
Let's talk game modes. Head-to-head, single race, time trial, and tournament. All standard stuff, and, well, they are. Granted, there's a few added bits and bobs to keep players engaged somewhat, which is obviously subjective, but the alternative is for them not to do anything at all to stand out. That's largely where head-to-head comes in. You can either race on circuits or open roads, and in head-to-head that includes both traffic and the cops. Keeping in mind that this came out in 1994, so don't expect much of either. They're alright, but you'll have to take a snapshot when you go past them, because we are a long way from what they'll become. Single race, time trial and tournament are exactly what they sound like. Race to be first, speed to be the fastest, and best out 6 will grant you a place on a leaderboard. Traffic and cops are exclusive to head-to-head for some reason, meaning that the tracks are empty for every other mode. Tournament is where I got most of my kicks, but that's largely because you don't have to win to proceed. I won't lie, with what this game puts up in terms of a fight, coming first place is a chore for me. So, what do you get for completing tournament mode? A new trippy map, a new car, and a new game mode called Rally. The map and car are the devs not really giving a crap and pumping everything up to the max, whereas Rally is a race on a muddy track, meaning a lot of slipping and sliding. I'm sure the idea was to enforce careful use of the accelerate and brake, but I'm terrible at this. In terms of the soundtrack, I really like the electronic arts jingle. This is where we reach pure subjectivity territory, because I don't have the language to talk about this objectively. I'll do my best, but take everything with a big pinch of salt, because I'm probably about to screw this all up. For my tastes, these feel overproduced. A lot of tracks are overlaid to make some semblance of a coherent tune, but it's so much that it's hard to focus on too much of it. Rampant and Toxic Exhaust escape this issue for me. Scud sounds like a track from Doom, and yeah, I'm all here for that. Overheated is a good time, but the game sound is too high by default to differentiate the guitars from the constant revving of the vehicles around you. Pretty much anything under the rock genre is a good time here. And then Odyssey comes in and it's just got me moving like... Oh, and I can't forget I. Graphically, this looks like it came out in 1994. Often when it comes to dated graphics, I tend to focus on the art style rather than the overall quality. People tend to forget that even photorealistic games have a certain art direction to keep it looking unique, and not like The Last of Us Part 1.
I don't know no girl.
I mean, what were we talking about? Filters, use of colour, environmental design, and all that good stuff. Here it's decent. I'd say that the car models suffer the most, if only because they're trying to replicate real-world designs, but the use of colour makes them all distinct enough to know which model is which. That obsession this series would have with bloom and motion blur isn't here yet, so we can actually see most of the tracks and they're vibrant, if not varied. What helps the most is that each track is themed. Autumn Valley, Burnt Sienna, and Rusty Springs are all self-explanatory. Autumn colours, dry colours, and desert colours. You might think, that's a lot of brown, and it is, but the shades themselves are unique to the track's themes, matching their names. Transtopolis is J.K. Rowling's worst nightmare. I mean, it's a city-based track focusing on the Metropolis theme. As a result, the colour scheme matches up nicely. Vertigo Ridge and Lost Vegas, the unlockable track, are significantly more overloaded in terms of their colour schemes. Vertical Ridge is a cliffside race that transforms into a snowy based track. As a result, there's a lot of greys and whites, which is thematically appropriate, but not as visually interesting as the other tracks. Las Vegas focuses on blacks and purples, with it being a Las Vegas-inspired track. For a moment or two it stands out, just because of how different the colours are compared to everything else, but I found it too oversaturated and repetitive after a while. That might be a subjective thing though. There are also 3 open road maps, with them being Alpine, City and Coastal. Once again, they're pretty self-explanatory given their names, with their use of blues and Coastal being my favourite of the 3. With that being said, there's nothing special about the way these tracks are designed. That's largely to complement the gameplay, I believe. Putting more of a focus on being a driving sim means that most of the player's efforts will go towards controlling the vehicle. Making the tracks too complicated has the chance of frustrating the player by messing with their focus. You're trying to stay in first whilst keeping up a high speed, which judging said speed when approaching the next bend. Keeping it simple means that the devs can go nuts on the weight of each vehicle and how distinct they feel from one another first and foremost. The difficulty lies in getting the vehicle from point A to B first and winning the race second. With that being said, a genuinely effective strategy is just to find a race you can come first in during tournament mode, and then you'll just start first in the following race. As long as you keep up the speed, you should be fine, but don't rip your hair out over this game. Oh, will you look at that? I've nearly taken up the majority of this game's section talking about the graphics. I wonder if that's an omen. Yeah, it is. Content-wise, there's just not a lot to this. You can go through everything in just under 3 hours if you're desperate to. I don't consider game length to be an issue, as it's more about what's done within that time, and here it's not a lot. Circuit races with rough, overtuned AI was a taxing experience. The open road sections with the traffic and cops added in were significantly more interesting than the races themselves for me. That includes the driving physics. Granted, it's no Driver or Gran Turismo, but what it achieves, it's still as entertaining for me. I'd say that's worth checking out, but don't force yourself through this one. When you're done with a circuit race and experienced head-to-head open road tracks, you've seen it all. Then again, it is only 3 hours. Maybe going apeshit at the end is enough of a reward for some out there. I still feel like I would have been disappointed upon release, but I do have to keep in mind that this didn't carry the large expectations the series would eventually gain. It's a magazine racing game with some really good sim elements. You get what you expect, at the very least.